thousand or something
It's
like
a
that?
little over, I think it's about 109,000.
Okay.
I'm going from memory.
Look, my recollection, there were 6 or 7 year projects looking forward.
Yeah.
Some of them were, the highest was 91,000, the lowest was
128.
50,000. So 75,000, assuming we put 75,000 in each year. Some years you would draw from the fund.
Right.
Besides the 75.
And that was all.
1 or maybe 2 years we would contribute to it.
Yeah.
When you're done with the 7 years, yes, you have used some of the final trust fund, but trying to keep everything in line. But that was a 7-year projection. The big question is what prices will be. But with the best knowledge we could, we came out, or Brad came out with.
Yeah, last year we only put 50,000 into the road and bridge repair fund, but we used 75,000.
Right, because we use a little bit of what we had.
We used a little bit of the funds, and because of the way that the projects were rolling this year and what it was looking like with the rest of the monies, we could kind of reverse that a little bit this year and put some back in there. It's right around 120,000 that's in that fund right now.
And that's not an expendable, that one actually has to.
That's a voted on at town meeting.
Right.
That is a capital reserve fund.
Yeah.
The road committee, I'll speak just briefly. In our meeting discussing the road projects for not maintenance but for improvement to the town's roads, we have found over the last 10 years or so that if we stick around $75,000, give or take a little, we can get quite a bit done. And we have in fact accomplished a lot. And we think that's about the right bite of the pie to take. Any higher, we'd begin to impact taxes more than we really think the people can support. And yet we can't just let the roads deteriorate. We have to not just maintain, but try to improve them, because they were really bad, and we've made substantial progress. And we anticipate continuing at this level, subject to the voters' approval, for probably the next 4 or 5 years anyway.
And Brookfield's always been fiscally responsible. I mean, we don't like to borrow money. We have no bonds. We have no debt other than our operating expenses, and we want to ensure that we keep it that way. So, yes.
I'd like to request that you reconsider that figure of $60,000 and increase it by some amount, anywhere between 5,000 and 15,000.
Are you talking about the warrant article?
Yes.
I already wrote in 75.
That's wicked good. Thank you.
However, we have to talk about these later in the meeting. These are the warrant articles that I'll pass out some to you when we get to that point in time. But these are just proposed numbers. The selectmen have not had a chance to really discuss them yet.
So that brings it up 15,000, which means 15,000 has to come from somewhere else.
Unless you look at level funding, it'll still be less than they were last year. You'll have to quit.
Thank you.
We'll be here for discussion of the warrant articles.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Tom.
Being that the state RSA's mandate that the town have a cemetery,
Yep.
and we don't have one now. Do you think, I don't know what's in
we
the
have one.
cemetery.
We actually have a
We
cemetery.
have a
We
cemetery.
have a cemetery that apparently is not usable for any.
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Well, I haven't been able to find anybody that can tell me where these plots are. But anyhow,
That's because probably nobody
That's true.
knows.
that's.
Well, as far
But if you want to be cremated, we have plenty of space for you.
You just put an order
Actually-
hole in and throw it in. Is that the 2,500 that's in the cemetery fund now, I think that's all that's in it.
That's because we just started putting money in
just
there
started.
last year, this
So-
year, and we're going to start building that up. There was talk that there was a resident, a local resident might donate some
I
property.
think that fell through.
And there are other things that are working out, you know, that are in the progress that we're trying to figure out. We keep our fingers crossed that things will work out and we'll get enough money before we have a mad rush to fill it.
I would hate to see something come up that the town would be, you know, a few thousand short of making it happen.
We have plenty of space right next door if we actually wanted to create a new cemetery. And there's at least an acre over there that we could.
wet. and-
Maybe a half an acre
and
then.
cemeteries are
or a
very
quarter.
strict on their wetland.
We can build it up and
That's what they
Put you-
call
He
it.
knows a
put you on
land.
funeral pyres.
Oh, sweet.
It's just ashes.
You would bring
So-
that up.
Frank, you had a,
To answer your question, there's
That
at
explains
least
the other.
2 plots next to Tom Tucker. When we interred, I was on the commission when we interred Tom Tucker. We did a couple tests using the principles that the old cemetery commission tells you to use when you're not sure of who's buried where. And so we feel there is a couple additions. There's also capacity for Bill Sire. That is an open plot, already was tested when his wife was interred there. He wanted to make sure there was room for him. So that plot, although that will probably now have to be hand dug because of the tree out of the way, it might make it a little easier. But because of Tom Tucker's interment, that might make you have to hand dig for a Bill. Hopefully it'll be a long time yet for Bill. But there is a little bit of capacity there, but not much. 2, maybe 3.
Is there a plot plan somewhere?
And we
That was ever created?
we never spent the money or had it really checked out. From mowing it myself, I can tell you there are a lot of graves on the hillside because you can feel the humps when you walk through. So we made a determination at that time, the original cemetery trustees, that the only spots available were either for urns on the back side of the hill towards the back fence where there don't appear to be any graves, and on that front corner where because we're faced with the interment of Tom Tucker. So the rules that you work by are, if you are unsure and you have a reasonable guess that there might not be a grave there, is you carefully dig until if you find evidence of an interment, you stop, you very respectfully put back the dirt you did, and that's the New Hampshire, that's actually the way you do it. And that's what we did in the case of Tom Tucker. We were very careful. While we were there, we looked a little, see if we had a little more room, and we're pretty sure we've got at least a couple, 3 more there. So, but this is the second cemetery, I've already had another conversation earlier today on this, but it's clear that for the long-term future, we do not have a lot of capacity in that, and we should start thinking about another one at some point.
But there is no written description.
But that's been one interment in 14 years.
no, there is no written description, there's no grave plots. I don't think
Yeah.
those records were either lost or never kept.
Not kept very well.
So what might, eventually what might have to happen is the cemetery trustees might have to make the decision to request funds to come in and have somebody use ground penetrating radar and do a,
Wouldn't it be cheaper to
Survey.
use that money toward buying a new, put it toward a new
Yeah.
cemetery?
And we've started putting monies
Probably,
aside
yeah.
for exactly this.
Yep.
And there is a warrant article for some monies to be added in trust for future needs.
Now, do you know of anything that's,
Just as a preliminary, I had a resident who volunteered to help us, and she plotted it all out and made a document of the cemetery with who's in there, who she could see is in there, and a picture, not a picture, but a sketch of what she found, and
Good.
measured it, GPS'd it. Or at least that's a
Well, that's good.
well, we have a document in working progress. That's better than I thought we had at the start of this conversation.
Yeah, good.
wonderful.
But I never knew that you had figured out there were other plots.
Well,
You need to-
the
Frank, you
backhoe,
need to share with us.
well, I'd be happy to.
Get them on the committee again.
Yes, you do.
Cup of coffee and I'll share away.
Cup of coffee and a Danish.
Maybe we can post that online, what we know about from the diagram.
And the other thing that just to help aid their capacity issues is if you notice just inside as you walk in through the opening, there's a stone there. That was a person, that was actually done by her granddaughter, but she was cremated and her ashes were scattered with her things, but she had requested a little marker to show that she had lived, or I think that person actually was born in Brookfield. So again, the cemetery trustee said that, and I think I've already shared this with you, that row, we started with that one marker. So we would encourage future folks, if they wanted to be part of the Brookfield Cemetery but not interred, that if they wanted cremation, which a lot of people are going for these days, is that we could have a row of stones there, those small stones, and there's plenty of room for those. So it's a way to get more capacity out of the current cemetery if people desire to go that route. And we had one taker on that so far.
And Jim Whittemore, there's a marker in there for him. It's up on the hill near his grandchild. And I had nobody ever told me anything
Well,
about
that should have gone through the cemetery trustees.
I was amazed.
That should have gone
The
through the
guy
cemetery
who cut
trustees.
the trees told me about it, and I went, what? I've never seen anything in there.
Yeah. It had to be new, but that should have gone through the cemetery trustees.
So is he
You
there,
might wanna have
or
a-
is that, it was, what is it? Does
Well, he's
anybody
not
know?
buried there.
No, I have no idea, but I'm no longer a cemetery trustee, but I would have that is his granddaughter, her grave there, and that, they planted the big rhododendron that there, the PMJ rhododendron, they planted that and we're tending it. I tended it for a while too. I would ask the Whittemore family, because they evidently put a marker in without asking.
I know.
But without going too farther into it, Jim did take care of that cemetery for approximately 30 years. He was the mower before me and before you, so probably would have been appropriate to have something there, but it should have asked.
Bill, you were going to ask a question? Do we have, go ahead, what was your question you were going to ask?
Oh, I guess it was, do you have any prospects for property? Anything, I mean, to make an adjustment, if we knew there was something out there, if that 187 acres, if somebody would, that's a good chunk of that would be nice. But are there any chunks out there that are potentials?
When is, what, Lyford and Stone? Is that the place? Lyford and Stone, the section?
That little corner section up there,
Corner
the
section.
triangle.
Yeah, Lyford and Stone.
Yeah, you're not gonna get much on there.
The water table is fairly high.
Water
That's right.
outside.
Which one are we talking about?
There's
The town-owned piece, the town-owned triangle up on the corner of Stoneham and Garney.
Oh, no, yeah, I can give you the history of that. Even though the road agent has made improvements and it's not as wet as it once was, it still was not satisfactory. And again, with the setbacks, the amount of money it would take to take the trees off of it, let alone the water issues, you wouldn't have enough plots to probably justify the cost of doing that. It's 100 feet setbacks from the nearest grave to the nearest wall or something. It's pretty, the new setbacks are fairly strict.
Frank, I would love to have you on the committee, you're very knowledgeable.
Yeah, well,
Spare time.
Yes, spare time. Driving to Nashville.
if you don't have anything else.
Oh, sure.
Is there anything else on this budget issue? I mean, these numbers will probably change between now and the next meeting. If we decide to add to the capital outlay section.
When we decide.
If there are no other further questions, then I will close the budget preliminary,
good job.
and then we will take a look at it in earnest next week, next meeting, as it will be duly noticed and advertised at that point.
But we are very pleased with last year's numbers, and we're very pleased with the budget we've got in front of you as far as coming in under budget from the previous year. That's been our goal all along. Okay. That takes care of the preliminary portion of the meetings before we go into the formal selectmen's meeting. So Clifton, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public comments.
Yes.
Yes, Rose.
Leaving last night after the election, I felt not unsafe, but I couldn't see my car.